Hey guys, this is Savannah from earthandwater.co, and I hope y'all had a wonderful holiday season and happy new year. And aren't you glad it's over? Because I am. Definitely gonna have to cover some more holiday content in the, I don't know, months, years, I don't know, whatever time is to come, because they really mess us up, don't they? We spend all year trying to figure out ways to manage and cope and balance and live, and then our holidays come along, and if they're anything like you, I mean, some people don't do much for the holidays. I know that. But on the other hand, some of us are drowning in obligations and things and events and festivities and get togethers, which is all great. But yeah, I could go on forever about how we should space this stuff out instead of trying to cram everything into a couple of days. But anyway, I'm not talking about that today. Today, I want to talk about yoga because I teach yoga, if you didn't know, and a lot of people come up to me asking how you do yoga. I've been practicing for 9-ish years, give or take, and I remember when yoga was new to me, and I was a little confused about it too. But look, it's in a nutshell, the easy answer is it's just stretching. It's just stretching. There's no need to overcomplicate. It's just stretching. Now, with that being said, I'm definitely going to overcomplicate things for us because there's already always a different level. There's always another level. There's always a next level to even the simplest of things. And that's what we as people tend to forget. We're like, okay, cool. So that's the basic, got it. Now I'm bored. What's the next thing? And when it comes to yoga, you really, really have to cultivate your patience. Well, I mean, I guess that comes not only just in yoga, but with all things in life. You really have to cultivate that patience because, yeah, okay, the stretch is simple, but how does it feel? How is your posture while in it? How is your breathing while in it? What muscles do you feel activating? Which ones are crying at you? Which ones feel tight? Which ones feel loose? What is your mind doing while you're in the stretch? Because ideally, we want to sit in the stretch for a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes. Because when we first go into these stretches, our body tenses up in an effort to protect us. And it takes about that long for the muscles to realize that we're not in danger and to relax so that we can deepen and go further into the stretch. Like about that, I heard the speaker telling he was really good in martial arts or whatever. He'd been doing it his whole life, and he came to an opportunity to train with monks that have been really doing, we think that we could study something our whole life, but we still have nothing on the monks that study something their whole life, right? Because they don't have technology and all that stuff, good stuff to distract them and entertain them like we do. But anyway, so dude was really excited. He was gonna go learn from these monks, and he got there, and he was like, okay, what are y'all gonna teach me? And the monk told him that he was gonna teach him how to throw a punch. And the dude said he was really offended at first. He was like, they must not know. They must not know. They must not have gotten the background on me because I can throw a punch. I've been practicing martial arts my whole life. So he told him, he was like, well, I know how to do that. I want the good stuff. Where's the rest? Where's the secret monk stuff, And so the monk asked him he lit a candle and asked him to throw a punch at the candle. And dude was really confused, and I wish I could remember the name of the speaker that was telling the story so I could like tag him and give him credit. So if you're familiar with the story, let me know because it's been years and I didn't keep up with things and resources like I do now. But anyway, so Monk tells dude to throw a punch at the candle. And dude's like, okay, this is my chance to show him that we don't need to waste time on something as insignificant as a punch. So he threw his best punch at the candle and he was really proud of himself, and he turned around and was like, ha, see, I told you I could do it or whatever. And the monk was like, all right, cool. And then he threw a punch at the candle, stopped a few inches from the candle, but the candle went out. Okay, so fun story, right? Lots of things we could dissect here, but I'm going to try to be really focused. But because we could totally get into like energy and auras and all of that and how like the physics of how that happened, or if we can even take it as truth, or if it was just a story that, you know, because we have storytelling minds and storytelling brains, and we use stories as a society to live and interact and, you know, just walk around in the world. So anyway, the monk says something along the lines of, "Do not fear the man who 1,000 moves one time. Fear the man who has done one move 1,000 times." So real quick, guy went from, "Oh, I know how to do a punch. I don't need to learn how to do a punch. That's a waste of time," to, "Oh, I thought I knew how to do a punch, but turns out I don't know how to do a punch. And can you please tell me how you threw that punch, because that seems very different from my punch." And that's essentially what we're learning throughout everything all the time. And yoga helps us to cultivate that patience so that we can slow things down, because our minds can multiply, divide, move in 1,000 different directions simultaneously, just all over the place, chaos. And but our bodies living in this physical world are a little bit slower. And if we can learn how to attune them to each other and bring them into alignment, we can learn to navigate things a lot easier, a lot better, a lot smoother, with a lot more flow. And it's, you know, our body can only move so fast, do so much. We are limited by this physical realm to an extent. So, what we mostly want to focus on is slowing the mind down. Okay, what is all? I find a lot of people to be intimidated by yoga, and I really, really, really need you to not be, because we don't do the fancy stuff. We don't even come close to the fancy stuff. The inversions, the headstands, the balance poses, the one arm pretzel stuff, like you don't ever have to worry about any of that when you're getting into yoga. If you come to my class, we are going to mostly be doing the same exercises, the same stretches that you did in elementary school in PE class, because those are the basics, and you are not ready for the headstands until you get the sitting stretches down. And you may think that you have the sitting stretches down, but you probably do not have the sitting stretches down. And then the other half of you are going to think that you don't have the sitting stretches down and that you can never even do that much. But let me tell you, you can. If you can sit in the floor, you can do yoga. I'm actually going to backtrack that a little bit, because I go to a yoga class that has 80-year-old, 90-year-old, 70-year-old women that can't get in the floor. So what did they do? They sit in a chair. And while we practice our floor stretches, they are in their chair doing what they can, where they can, and it's fine. It's perfect. Yoga is a personal practice, and it is there to help you cultivate and understand the relationship between your mind and your body, because they are the same, but they're very different, aren't they? And they're very disconnected for the most of us. But just as our mind talks to us through words all the time, and we can hear that, our body talks to us in feelings and emotions and, you know, aches and pains and discomforts. And yoga really helps us to tune into that aspect so that we can help care for our bodies in the way that it asks for. So yeah, slow and steady wins the race always. You have to cultivate the patience to go on that journey and find the next level, because it's all even now, I 9 years later, 10 years, I don't know, somewhere around in there, am still, sometimes I'll be in class and something just clicks, and I'm like, oh, whoa, I just found the next level to this pose, and I didn't even realize. I didn't know I was heading in that direction. I didn't know that I was working on that. I didn't know that that particular muscle was there and that I needed to tighten it in order to be able to straighten up a little bit more and do this and do that. You have to scan your body while you're doing yoga and the poses and stuff. But I want to back up for a second and explain to you how yoga is not it's become an exercise, but it didn't start out that way. Yoga, as we know, is 1,000 years old, or hold on, let me Google that to do exact numbers for you. Okay, yeah, Google says 5,000 years. So this yoga is 5,000 years old, but it started out as purely philosophical. There was only originally one pose in the ancient Vedic texts, and that was a comfortable seat because it was philosophical. It didn't have all of the exercises attached to it. All you needed was yoga. All yoga was initially was sitting around and contemplating why you are the way you are and why life is the way it is and how we can come together and try to live the best life that we can for the good of us all, the good of yourself, the good of those around you, because when you are operating from your highest self, from your best intentions, everyone around you benefits and everyone grows through it. The poses in yoga were only introduced 100 years ago or so, maybe 200 years at this point. There were three guys who brought it over from India into the Western culture and made it more mainstream and whatever. But initially, the poses were introduced as a means of getting the public, the regular person who didn't have time to, the farmer or the merchant who didn't have time to sit around and contemplate life for 10 hours a day or whatever, because, we have to work and stuff to live. So the poses are fairly new, and the philosophical stuff is definitely what drew me to yoga. So please, please, please don't ever be intimidated by yoga. It can be as simple, as yin, as slow and easy as you want it, or as hard, as yang, as tough, as strong as you want it. It's all up to you and your personal practice and what best helps you connect to your body. So yoga is not just a physical practice. It is not just a mental practice with meditation and whatnot. I will do a whole thing on meditation for you so that we can explore that as well, because it is also covered in a lot of misunderstandings and whatnot. But yoga is learning how to connect with the world around you, the energy flow, it's food, it's self-care, it's posture, it's stretching, it's breathing, yeah, but it's also community and tapping into love in and of its truest form so that we can tap into the love for ourselves, for those in our lives, for our neighbor who is an ass. It's learning how to navigate not only the world around you in the best way possible, the healthiest way possible, in the most love-centered way possible, but understanding all of the 1,000 little pieces that make up ourselves and each other and the world, and trying to keep all of those little aspects balanced so that we can be our best self and operate in this world intentionally with purpose instead of chaotically and on free fall, because a lot of us are on autopilot, and autopilot is kind of the programming you had in early life before you came to this moment and realized that you could choose what you believe and how you do and how you act and how you be and all of that, and you don't have to react with the chaos that is untamed emotions for all of us. For all of us, taming emotions is definitely something we all should cultivate, and almost none of us do. Circling back around a little bit though, I don't want you to be overwhelmed with any of this, okay? I'm going to help you break it down. It's going to be a journey. It's always a journey. Life is a journey. We are in it for the long haul. There are no quick fixes to anything. The long way is the shortcut. And honestly, the slower you can do this journey, the less chaos, I keep saying. And by chaos, I mean like the overwhelm, the emotional stuff, the trauma healing, because a lot of people who have been through traumatic events credit yoga with helping them dig themselves out of that. And I'm going to help you break it down. I'm going to help you break all of it down through a lot of these podcast episodes because, yeah, it's a lot to go through, but that's okay. We're not going to get bored. So, if you're just starting out on your journey of self betterment, no matter what that is, no matter what that looks like, even if you're like, I mean, I guess if you're here, you're interested in starting out on yoga as a means of that journey. But just know that there are a lot of different ways to go about learning who you are, how you are, why you are the way you are, and releasing those emotions that have been stuck for so long and interfering with your life and where you want to be in it. But anyway, just remember that everything's relevant and you really should listen to yourself and take everything you ever encounter with a grain of salt and analyze it for yourself and ask yourself what feels right in your heart. And it doesn't matter if it is what other people believe, whatever you cultivate as your own experience for this life is the correct answer. Okay? Nothing's concrete. Everything's relative. Everything is dependent upon your situation, your circumstances, who you are, and how you are, and why you are the way you are. This is your journey on this planet, and you get to cultivate it in any way you want. So, all I can do is tell you what the Vedic texts say, tell you what other people say, tell you what worked for me, what I've seen work for my students, and then you take what you need to do and see what you can make work for you. Just always remember to be super careful because you absolutely can overstretch and hurt yourself doing yoga if you're focusing on the more physical aspects of it. I have absolutely done so, and anybody who's practiced yoga for any amount of time has absolutely hurt themselves. So please just be careful and listen to your body. Discomfort is okay, and where growth occurs, pain is not, and where you get injured. So, for the sake of wrapping this up and keeping everything in digestible chunks, I'm going to wrap this up with a few things that you can do today to practice and start moving forward on your journey. Something you can do no matter where you are is to tap into your breathing and just notice it and notice how different breathing patterns affect you throughout the day. If you're feeling any sort of stress, overwhelm, anytime you think about it, you think about your breath, just check in with it and connect. Okay, this is how I'm breathing right now, and these are the emotions I'm feeling. And you can manipulate the breath a little bit to control the emotions, but do know in the beginning, breathing exercises may make stress and anxiety worse before it makes it better because we're used to breathing one way, and breath is the most basic, essential part of life. And when you spend, 30 odd years or whatever breathing in one way, and then you're actively trying to breathe in a different way, sometimes that can like spaz the system a little bit and make it nervous. But just remember slow, calm, long breaths. And I am working on posting some some guided meditations for you guys so that you can kind of work through this a little bit. You're going to breathe in the belly, not the chest. If you watch babies and children, when they're breathing, their bellies are going up and down. But if you notice your own breath, it's probably up here in the chest area. Well, the babies and the children are doing it correctly. It's us who have become adults and we've, came across these things in life that stress us out, and shallow chest breathing is a sign of stress. So, if you consciously bring it back down to the belly, you're stretching the diaphragm, letting that diaphragm come down so it massages the organs in the torso, in the stomach, and whatnot. Massaging those organs helps detoxify them, helps bring oxygen to them where we need them. It brings the lungs to full capacity instead of just the shallow half capacity of stressful shallow chest breathing. So, and once again, when you're trying to switch over from chest breathing to stomach breathing, it can cause anxiety at first because you're like, oh, I feel like I can't breathe. But just follow the breath, watch the breath come through, and you can switch that script to, oh, I feel like I can't breathe, but obviously I can feel that I am breathing. The air is coming into my lungs. It is expanding to full capacity. It is nourishing my cells, my body. I am okay. I am just ungrounded, and we're going to work on that. Moving on, posture. Sitting up tall and straight, shoulders back and down, chest open for the heart center. Posture is crazy, crazy, crazy important. I could do a whole episode on posture. I've written whole blog posts on posture. I'm pretty sure I've done whole YouTube videos on posture. Posture is so important, and I drill it into people's heads when they come into my class, and they're probably sick of hearing me talk about the posture, but it's so important, and you can do it anywhere, anytime, all the time, and should. And once again, it's if you're not used to using those muscles to bring the shoulders back and down, to it's going to hurt, it's going to be sore for a while. You're using muscles you haven't used, they've been dormant for however long, and they're not used to staying like this all the time. I went from terrible posture to I have somewhat passable, decent posture now, and just that leap took me like 2 years. So, again, remember, it's going to take time. This is all going to take time, but don't let that intimidate you. In 2 years, you're still going to be however old you are in 2 years. We can cry about it. I try not to cry about it. I try really hard to take aging with grace, but sometimes it's hard. But anyway, tangent. With the right intentions and the right purpose and the right mindset, in 2 years you can be wherever you're going to be anyway, but with great posture, and you're going to look better, and you're going to look more confident, and you're going to feel more confident, and you're going to feel healthier, and you're going to feel like you have more energy, all from posture. Ain't that crazy? Ain't that crazy? Anyway, for the sake of not dumping everything all on you all at once, we're going to stop with 3 tips. So, breathing, posture, and stretching. And stretching is not useless, okay, at all whatsoever. It also is super crazy helpful in a lot of ways, obviously. I don't want to downplay the stretching because I was talking about how the postures weren't even part of it until recently. That doesn't make them any less important if you're doing them correctly and all of that. You can, stretch for the obvious reasons, but something I want to mention is the healing aspect, because our emotions, when you think about it on like a basic biological level, are just chemical releases of hormones throughout our bloodstream and our body that makes us feel a certain way, right? Well, these chemicals and all of hormones and all of that get trapped. So these emotions get trapped in our body, especially negative ones. We hold on to that stuff, that thing that the person did to you, it was terrible, and you've been holding on to it ever since because it was a big deal and it did impact your life. But it's also not helpful. It's a wound. Just like any other physical wound that you can see, it is a collection of energy that is stuck in your body somewhere. And sometimes, a lot of time, most of the time, we don't realize it, we don't feel it, we don't even know it's there, but it is, and it's affecting us even though we don't know it. So it's amazing if you really get into the stretching and you can surpass that beginning point of stretching when it hurts to stretch, to moving on to the next level of stretching where it feels good to stretch. And then there's even a level after that where you will crave the stretching if you haven't in a while. And it just, there's levels to all of this stuff, and you have to get to the next level. So if you're having a miserable time with it, you're probably still in the first level. And I'm sorry, everything's hard in the beginning, and I'm sorry. Try to stay positive. It'll try to distract yourself if you need to in the beginning, just to keep it consistent and going and stick to it. It will get better, I promise. But people in the beginning, I always tell, it doesn't have to be hard, and you don't need yoga clothes, and you don't need a yoga mat, and you don't need all the yoga accessories. You don't need anything. If you watch TV, this is what I tell people, if you watch TV at all ever, sit in the floor and watch TV and do some simple stretches while you're watching TV to just kind of loosen yourself up. And that's where If you don't stretch at all, if you don't exercise at all, and you're trying to get into something, start as small as possible. How can you fit this into your life? And if you can sit in the floor and watch TV, that's a really good way to fit it simply into your life. If you're sitting around on your phone, do it in the floor while you stretch. Just try to sit in the floor as often as you can and stretch and just start there. Turn on a YouTube channel with some yoga poses or flows or whatever, follow along. There's 1,000 different ways to practice yoga because there's 1,000 different aspects that there is to life, and yoga is life. So don't overthink it. Make it as simple as possible. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And I'm just going to leave you with that today to kind of think about or whatever. And you can check us out next time on the next podcast episode or whatever. And, sharing is caring. Follow me on all the social medias and let me know if I can be of any assistance. Love you guys. Namaste.